Hello and welcome to the Business Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Holly Wharton. I've been an entrepreneur since 1999, and I know firsthand how difficult it can be to build a business without the right mindset. This is a podcast for those of us who struggle with showing up in our business with confidence and authenticity, who resist taking big action because of fears and doubts, who know deep down that it's possible to create something bigger, and yet you're not. This podcast combines powerful strategies on how to upgrade your business mindset along with practical business tips to grow your business more easily in a way that feels aligned. This podcast features solo shows with me and also interviews with inspiring women entrepreneurs from around the world, including my monthly co-hosted episodes with Joe Casey. My goal is to help you grow your business more quickly and easily by transforming your mindset. For me, mindset work is a lifelong practice, and I want to help you make a habit out of mindset work. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, let's get into this week's episode. Hello and welcome to the Business Mindset Podcast, episode 248. This is your host, Holly Wharton, and I'm back with another co-hosted episode with the fabulous Joanna Hennon. Today, we are going to talk about money. So today's episode was inspired by last month's episode on transformation work, which was titled, Can You Expect Miracles from Doing Transformation Work? This month, we dig deeper into the specifics of money manifesting, money mindset, and transformation work around money. We look at why this is such a big issue for so many of us and why we need to actually dig deeper and really get to the core of our money stuff before we will actually see the results and how to do that. So what are you going to learn? We talk about so much. This is a really nice, deep, juicy episode. We ask the question, if we're all doing transformation work, why aren't we all rich? We look at why we often measure too soon and how that's a problem. We look at why none of this is actually about money and what it's really about instead. We talk about what the highest priority actually is and why it's not really money. We look at why your relationship with money is the same as your relationship with the universe. We talk about why money is just a symptom that causes us pain. It's like the tip of the iceberg, and what we need to do with that pain to get to the stuff that's in that kind of underwater iceberg bit. We talk about how to look at all the work that happens behind the scenes before the money actually shows up and is visible. You're going to learn how to get out of that stuck place where all you feel is lack of money. We look at why it's so important to dig deeper into what it means to not have enough money and how to do that. We talk about why you need to say yes to opportunities even when they're not what you expected. And Joanna has a great story about this that you might not have heard before. We look at why just because you do the work, it doesn't necessarily guarantee the money. We ask the question, can you create money out of thin air? We also look at why the energy needs to flow and how that might affect retaining money in savings. We look at how money relates to lifestyle and how you need to make sure that you end up with a lifestyle you actually want. We look at what to do when we get attached to where the money's coming from, and does it really matter where the money comes from? We also talk about practical action stuff you can do today to start taking action to get the money and the lifestyle you really want. So, without further ado, moving on to today's episode. I hope you find it interesting and useful. Hello, Joanna.
Hi, Holly.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I am looking forward to talking about today's topic.
Money.
Yes.
Everybody loves talking about money, right?
I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of us have so much stuff wrapped up in it that it can either be an exciting conversation or a really painful conversation, depending on how we feel about our money situation.
That's true. I suppose I should have specified that, like, personal development junkies like us love talking about money.
Yeah. All right. So where did this topic come from? It kind of leads on from our last episode. I keep saying last session.
Yeah, we were talking about how our transformational tools really, and that kind of happened because I had been on the Psych K workshop, which is a modality that you're very, very familiar with, obviously.
Yay.
So we were talking about that, and because it's such a great tool, and it's not the only tool, obviously, we're talking about EFT as well. We have all these great tools, and so we're all using we're going to assume that we're all using these tools. We're not just sitting on them,
Yeah.
but we aren't all rich. And so that was a question that came up for us. And I think it's probably coming up for a lot of people. Like, you're doing the work, you're doing the transformation work, but you're not rich. Why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah. Why aren't you seeing miraculous results?
Yeah, especially like since, probably a lot of the programs that we buy,
Mm-hmm.
and I include myself in this, like promise miraculous results, right?
Yeah.
So like if you do this, then this will happen. And so we're kind of expecting this causality. It doesn't seem to be working out that way in a lot of cases. So then we thought we'd talk about money. So here we are.
Exactly. And I think that's interesting what you said, because whether it's an online course or one-to-one coaching or a group mastermind or mentorship program, a lot of times in the business world, what it's offering is more clients, which means more money.
The reason all those programs, I think, are offering that result is that that's what we think we all want.
Right.
Like, I've been coached by a lot of people who tried to kind of put what I offer, what I teach, which is how to be more soul smart and use your soul wisdom, like into that box.
Mm-hmm.
So that I was giving people or offering people what they think they want, which is more clients and more money.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I've always thought that that's kind of making something that's really exciting really two-dimensional. Sticking it, it's like taking all this like wonder of the universe, all this greatness, and like pushing it down into a box called clients and money, and it just loses its sparkle.
Yeah, it does. And not only that, it's like if we're in a purpose-driven, soul-led, inspiring, life-changing business kind of thing, and yet we distill it all down to the money rather than kind of like that deep purpose of being here to help people and serve people and make the world a better place, that's also kind of like a weird balance. Because obviously, I think neither of us are the kind of people who think that you must, serve for free, and that's BS. But it's so hard to balance that, like, I want to serve and I want to change the world with, I also want to make, a ton of money doing it.
Yeah, I think there's a trust thing there, because I do believe that if you lead with that serving piece,
Yeah.
then the money will follow. And we see that time and time again in examples, and we see a lot of successful people actually say that. But I think it's really hard when you're starting out, when you don't have the money, to be in that space and not focus on the money so that you can pay the bills. Like, I think we can all agree that money is super important.
Yeah, obviously, we
So
can't live without it.
you can't. So, well, you probably can. I saw an article the other day about a guy who lives in a cave. So,
well,
yeah.
true.
But I don't want to live in a cave.
No. Maybe for like a weekend retreat, that would be nice, but
Not even that. No.
okay. That's my kind of thing. But I think this brings up something that you had mentioned earlier when we were preparing for the episode, which was that we often measure too soon. It's like we start our business, we have such great high hopes of like making fast money because we see online that people appear to be making big fast money. And then we say, why isn't it working?
Yeah, and I think that's a big problem, because that's a really, really dangerous place to be. That why isn't it working? Because you're focusing on it. You've basically decided that it's not working and you're asking why. So the way your brain is wired is to find the answer to that question. So it takes that assumption as truth and it tries to find reasons for why it's not working. And that's just dangerous. I think energy-wise and action-wise, right?
Yeah.
Because if you think it's not working, are you going to take the next action steps? No. Because it's not worth it. It's not going to produce any of the results that you want, right?
Exactly. Because you're playing detective, trying to figure out why you have so much lack, and you're focusing on the lack, not how to get what you want.
Yeah. So I think that's just a dangerous place to be. I think, every listener, like, if you find yourself in that space, then do what you can to bring yourself back out, that you're willing to move forward. That's just going to keep you stuck. And I know, like, we can discuss, but really, in my case, it's not working. Well, then it's never going to work, because you're going to get stuck in that place. So whatever you can do to kind of to take that next step and try something else or whatever. So yes, I do think we often measure too soon and just decide that it didn't work.
Yeah. So if for people who are listening who are stuck in that place of lack, of it's not working, like, why am I not getting what I want, which is more money, more clients? How do you recommend that people get out of that place?
Now, if I only had like the exact formula for this, I too would be super rich.
Well, and that's the thing. It's different for everybody.
That's the thing. It is different for everybody. And this is the way I teach manifesting, is that there is no like actual formula. There are certain things, certain aspects that you need to pay attention to. But when you work with energy, you kind of like your energy yourself. So you need to kind of figure out how you interact with other energy. If you're in that space, I actually recommend, and this is something I did, so this is not like pulled out of thin air, out of a hat, is to disassociate money from feeling good and feeling successful.
And how do you do that? Because I think we have that so ingrained that the two things are kind of meshed or fused
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, I had to do it because I was faced with a situation where no money was coming in, and I still had like 3 months left of that particular experiment where I was just like, either I can spend the next 3 months miserable, or I can just let go of the money piece.
Yeah.
Because I knew that in 3 months I would get some money. I was in a lucky position, but I just had to be like, I remember like that feeling of thinking, I just have to let go of the money, like altogether, because I want to enjoy this time. So I just have to stop thinking about money and just, I know that it's important and I know that, without it, I won't be able to do this and this, but I just have to let go. And I think we've talked about this before, Holly,
Yeah.
is that I just focused on the success piece and made sure that I felt good and successful every day and just did things that made me feel that way, irrespective of whether the money was coming in. And if you heard me talking about this before, that's when the money started flowing in. Once I managed to disassociate, once I was willing to hit that rock bottom, I'm going to have to like let go of this. Like, even if I don't make any money in my business ever, am I going to be miserable for the rest of my life? No,
Exactly.
I don't think that.
And this is something you focused on in your soul space last month, isn't it? Success as success, not necessarily success as money.
Well, in fact, yeah, this month in the soul space, we're doing money. And the reason I did that was because when I asked the question about success, everybody responded with their thoughts about money. And I was like, all right, so we clearly need to disassociate these two things and then tackle money after we allow ourselves to be successful. And that's working a lot better, I think.
Good. Because money is such a big piece. And even as we were talking before we started recording today, we have 1,000 bullet points here about stuff that we could talk about that we may or may not get to, because it is such a big piece for people. I mean, in my books, Business Beliefs and Business Blocks, I have the biggest list of business beliefs around money because that is one of the biggest things for people. And that's one of the biggest things that comes up in client work. Money, money, money.
Yeah, and I think, it's like of course we do need to work on money stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying we don't. We all have money crap, like money beliefs that are old or outdated or not supportive or whatever. If you know that you have those, then get Holly's book, and work on that, because that's a really good source. But like, you need to zoom out because it's not actually about the money. So when we were preparing, I was telling you, Holly, about the stuff that I channeled, this information that I channeled about money. And really, every time I ask my guides about information about money, they ask me to zoom out and understand that it's not about money, but it's about your whole relationship with everything, with the universe, with the world, with yourself, with existence, like with everything.
So how do you zoom out and get that kind of bigger picture view? It's like, they say you can't see the forest for the trees because you're focused on that one money tree and you can't see like all the other trees in your life.
I don't know. How do you do it, Holly? Like, for me, it's just a choice. I haven't come up with a better answer than you have to want to and you have to choose to.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I do allow myself kind of the indulgence of focusing on this particular stuff because it allows me to do the mindset work on it. So like if money is a pain for me in a particular month, I use that as the trigger to focus on, okay, what do I want instead? What do I want? What are the blocks? What are the stuff that I need to shift? Because it's like money and other things can be kind of the symptom that causes the pain and gets us to do the transformation work. Like you said earlier, it's like the tip of an iceberg of this whole block of energy stuff and like blocks and fears and limiting beliefs and stuff. And the money is such a pain that it like gets us to do the work that's going to shift a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, because our whole life is like meant to be about life, not about money,
exactly.
Right? And so we get stuck in the money piece because obviously we need money to live. But if we zoom out and look at it, like just look, be honest with yourself. Like, what do you believe about money? Like the example I always use is that if you think you don't have enough, right? Then look at the rest of your life. Like, where else do you think you don't have enough?
Yeah.
What are you judging as not enough? Where are you judging yourself as not enough? Like, where does that not enough concept show up?
Yeah.
Right?
And what was the first instance in your life where you felt that sense of lack and not enough? Is it I am not enough? Because often that's it.
Often that's it. And then, of course, if you feel like you're not enough and you're not doing enough and you're not going fast enough and all this other stuff, then what can money, which is energy like you, reflect? Not enough.
Yeah.
I just think it's really interesting to, if you're really frustrated with money, to kind of try and zoom out and look at other areas of your life or try to see the patterns or the themes. Because, yeah, as you said, like money is the tip of the iceberg. So this is, I'll share what my guides, the imagery or whatever that my guides gave me for this is a theater production. So that money is that end result that we all want. Like when you go to the theater, it's all perfect. Well, it should be. Or
Can
more,
it
or more or
really be
less, right?
perfect?
Yeah, maybe not perfect, but but it's done, right?
Yeah.
It's
It's the completed
finalized.
project.
It's a complete project. It's a whole. That's what money is. And that's what we want. We want to sit back and watch this abundance and
Yeah.
experience this abundance, right? But when you think about what had to happen for that piece to come together, right? Somebody had to have a vision. Somebody had to hold auditions. Somebody had to hire actors and tell them where to stand and where to move. And they also had opinions,
Yeah.
and they contributed. And you had to have the props and you then
Yeah.
had the set painted and sell tickets and tell people and marketing and whatever. So there was a lot that went into that you don't actually see. And you probably, unless you're like a theater geek like me, you probably don't think about when you go see a production, right? But it's all the behind the scenes stuff, the lights, the sound. And I really like that way of looking at money. So then if the money is the production, then what needs to go into the process of creating that result?
Right.
What's your vision? Where are your actors? Where's your lighting? What part of the stage is it lighting up, right?
Yeah. Think that image, I don't know how to put this into words. It's like it makes me realize how much of a big production it is and how much goes into it. And I think a lot of the marketing and the products and services and stuff that's offered in the online business world makes it sound so simple. And I think maybe it can be simple in some instances, but there's a lot that goes into it as well.
It can be simple, but it can't be on the surface.
Right.
Right? It has to go deep.
Right. So that's the point here. This is deep work that we're doing if we're doing money transformation stuff.
I think that's the thing, right? Because it's not about and I remember when we first met, I went to Holly for Psych K sessions. And I remember what I wanted was for Holly to do her magic and then I would be rich. I mean, basically that's what I wanted.
Unfortunately, it doesn't happen that way. I totally wish it did, but no.
Yeah, but you had to.
Yeah.
So I went with these top level beliefs that I wanted shifted or that I wanted to believe, the typical ones. It's easy for me to make money in my business, right? But that's not enough.
No.
That over the years, I've explored various aspects of that and tried different things and whatever. And it's becoming easier and easier. I won't hide that. It is. It's going in the right direction for sure. But it's not like I decide to put on a show and then tomorrow I can invite you to watch it.
Yeah. Well, just because we do the transformation work, it doesn't guarantee that we're going to make the money because we also have to take the practical action steps.
Yeah, and that's the action piece, right?
And oftentimes the money work that we have to do in terms of mindset and energy and transformation is so much deeper and bigger than we think when we first approach it.
And I think that relates to what we were saying before, Holly, about it being not actually about the money, but it's about your whole relationship with the universe. And you think that, okay, money seems like an easy thing to heal. But if you stop talking about money and started talking about your relationship with the universe, it would be very apparent from the very start that it's a big thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it is a big thing.
There's a lot there. There's a lot of layers, a lot of things to understand, a lot of stuff.
It triggers a lot of stuff that unless you're kind of deep into this kind of transformation work, you might not realize is related to money, like I am enough, self-esteem, self-worth, value, all that kind of visibility. It's like it triggers this kind of cascade of all these other beliefs.
Yeah, and I think part of it is that you have to be okay with that. I had a client say the other day, I just want to be done with it, with the whole money thing. I just want it to be solved.
Yep.
And I actually don't think that that's how it works. I don't know.
I don't either, but I understand how that's really appealing.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I would love for that to be true. And I know that you can reach a place in your life with your work and your transformation and whatever, where you're a lot more secure and those money streams are a lot more secure, a lot more flowing, and you're in a totally different place. But I wouldn't think that it's solved.
No.
Like it's not a thing to solve. Like 'cause I
No.
think that implies then that there's like a small issue, and if you just do one specific thing, then it'll be solved and everything will be magically okay. That's not it. Like I think the money, because it's not about money, it's about your relationship with the universe. It's kind of an ongoing process. And I think it goes on beyond this lifetime. Like it's not even something that kind of stops when you die. Okay, there's no money, presumably, on the other side. But I mean, since it's all energy, it doesn't matter
Yeah,
what we call it.
exactly. It's just something else.
Yeah. I wonder if we're making any sense.
I think we are, and I think people who are into the transformation and energy work arena, I think they'll understand this. So let's get back to the practical stuff, because we've talked about money manifesting. So law of attraction and manifesting, there's some people that really love the concept and some people just think it's utter BS. So can you create money out of thin air? Like, is this possible? How does manifesting work? Like, is it...
Oh my God.
What?
That's a whole other episode. Let's do our next one on that.
All right.
But can you create, I mean, I don't know. I know what my answer is. What do you think? Can you create money out of thin air?
I mean, like, in theory, anything's possible. But in reality, I mean, yeah, I guess I believe that anything's... Oh, this is so...
Okay, I definitely think that you can
Okay.
create money out of thin air because I've done it.
Okay.
So I know that it's possible.
Okay, so give us examples. Like, what does this look like in real life?
I mean, you've heard me tell this story before as well, but I'll just repeat it. But it's useful here.
Yeah.
But you can create money out of thin air. And the way that it happened for me, it started with intention. So you have to know what you want and kind of spend time aligning with the feeling of what you want. So what I wanted was to pay for our new car with cash. And every single day I would sit down, I would imagine myself going to the car dealership place and handing over a suitcase of cash. Because that's what it looked like in my head, to pay for it with cash.
Yeah.
So every day I would do that. And so some opportunities came our way. I think that the piece there is, how do you create money out of thin air? Like it might not just like land on your doorstep, although I'm not going to discount that either. If it wants to land on my doorstep out of thin air, then fine. I remember saying to my husband, oh, wouldn't it be great if we like started finding random money by our gate? And then once he came in and he said, I just found some money by our gate. And I started like jumping up and down like a crazy person. It hasn't happened since then, so maybe we should work on that. But yeah. So for me, that was out of thin air.
Okay, but I think this is, it's out of thin air, but you put in the work every day. So it wasn't like you just one time said, universe, send me money out of thin air. Like you were putting in the time, you were putting in the work.
It's that time and that work.
Yeah. And
the second piece is saying yes to opportunities. Because what happened then is my husband came to me and wanted to bet on Brexit.
Oh, right.
This is the story, right?
Yeah.
And I was just like, gambling? Really? Like, that's not a thing that like, normal, intelligent people do, right? Gamble away their money. And I just remember thinking, like, I've been setting this intention for money out of thin air. This could be the answer. And so saying yes to those opportunities, even if you have judgment of them, even if like your first reaction is to say, come on, that's not something that I want to do, being willing to say yes, because we said yes, and for better or for worse, we won money on Brexit. And let me tell you, I'm against Brexit and pro EU against Brexit. So it kind of made it sweeter that day,
Yeah, exactly. The pain was a bit less.
Indeed. And that was really out of thin air. That was money out of nothing.
Yeah.
So I think you can create money out of thin air if you kind of find out for yourself how that energy piece works and you spend time aligning with what you want. And I will say this is because this is coming to me right now, Holly, is that I have manifested some pretty amazing, miraculous things, money and not money, in my life. I was thinking about this recently, that the thread is that in each case, I decided that way it was going to be. So I refused to think about the opposite happening.
Right.
But I thought about it enough that I was like, well, if it doesn't happen, it's okay. So yeah. I wasn't desperate because I knew if we didn't create the money for the car, we could get a loan. If I didn't, I was passing exams, very, very difficult and competitive exams for a particular job that I wanted. Okay, if I didn't pass them, of course, I'll get another job. I did the same thing. I had IVF to have my son. So I knew that there was a chance that it wouldn't work, but I refused to entertain it. I knew that I'd be okay somehow. if it didn't work. But I just didn't entertain. And I just remember, even before I knew manifesting or the law of attraction existed, I remember if the thought of, oh, what if I don't pass my exam kind of entered my head, I would say, no, of course I'm going to pass my exam. And I would imagine myself calling my mother and telling her that I passed.
Yeah.
And this is before any of my reading or learning or whatever. So it is that thread of just deciding that this is the way it's going to be, which is why questions like, why isn't it working, are a dangerous place to put yourself in.
Yeah. So it's all about focusing on what you do want rather than what you don't want, which is what we do when we're working with clients. When I'm working with clients, whether it's with heart-centered energy work or Psyche, oftentimes people will say, they'll talk about what they don't want, and I always have to help them flip it on their head and say, what would you rather have instead? Like, if you don't have this problem, what do you have?
And I have to say, like, I love how you do that, Holly. Like, I find it really difficult. And it's one of the reasons why I like to have sessions with you, because sometimes it's really difficult for myself to clarify what I want. Like, you make me go deeper with that and make it more specific.
Yeah.
And that's super valuable. But it's our natural tendency to kind of talk about how things aren't going well or what's not working.
Yeah. And I think different people have different motivations. It's like they say some people are motivated by going towards what they do want, but a lot of us are motivated by running away from what we don't want.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised by it. Yeah, and I guess that's reflected in like online marketing techniques and stuff, right? Because you either
dig up the pain.
Yeah.
Shove their face in the pain.
So this is, okay, now I understand more why those things, I don't like those things. I don't like doing those things.
Yeah.
Because I'm actually motivated by being the better version of myself.
Yeah.
Rather than
getting away from
running
pain.
away from what I don't want. Okay, interesting as an aside. Yeah, so can you create money out of thin air? Yes, I think in my experience, you can with the right energy and steps, right?
Yeah, exactly. And again, doing the work that you need to take.
The transformational work. I think that's the basis of it. I mean, if we're working with money or anything else, like it's just energy at the end of the day. So if you focus on that, on the flow of energy and just think of it as energy, which means like, or maybe we can talk about this now, about saving, because like the energy needs to flow.
Yeah.
Which means that you can't like hoard it.
Yes.
Then it can't flow. And yet we are encouraged to hoard it, to save it, not overspend, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm. How
do you feel about that?
I get it. I get that energy needs to flow, but I kind of feel like some of it can flow into my savings account because savings have it.
I love that. Yeah, I think some of it can flow into my savings account as well. Just to be clear,
it feels good to have savings, and there have been times in my life when I've had savings, and there have been times in my life when I haven't had savings. And for me particularly, it feels very disconcerting, very uncomfortable not to have that kind of safety net. Again, this goes back into trusting in the universe. How much are we meant to trust, and how much are we meant to just be practical and have some damn savings in the bank account?
Yeah, I mean, I struggle with this as well. And I actually really struggle with the law of attraction advice on this, because the law of attraction advice says that you shouldn't like focus on saving, because that means that you don't trust that the universe will provide. But I also, like, for me, I think the highest priority needs to be that you feel good. So I feel good, like you, Holly. I feel good when I have savings.
Yeah.
Like, because I didn't have any and I had kind of a very kind of troubled youth, let's say. Good childhood, troubled youth. I was very poor and all sorts of things. And it's just something that makes me feel like accomplished and successful, secure.
Yeah.
It makes me feel really good. It makes me want to go into my bank accounts
and look at them.
Yeah. And I like that feeling, right?
Yeah.
So I don't actually agree with the law of attraction stuff saying that you shouldn't focus so much on saving. I think you should get clear on what makes you feel good.
Yeah. And in every aspect of money, what is it that makes you feel good about money? Like, is it the saving? Is it the investing? Is it having lots of money flowing in and flowing out? Like, it's going to be different for everyone. And that's why we all need to spend some time getting clear on what we want.
Indeed. And that's part of the action piece, I think, like not just like working on the energy side of money, but working with money in the real world as well, and knowing where it's going, and just being in control of it, right? Because like I spent way too many years like never looking at my bank accounts and being scared to to open the bills and like things. It was a really, really dark time in my
Yeah.
life. And that didn't feel good. Like, I feel like it's much better for me to know what's going on,
Yeah.
even if it's not exactly what I want. Because then I know where I'm starting and I know where I want to go next.
And what you need to do about it.
Yeah. I mean, I think, gosh, that's another topic, right? Like what you need to do about it. You don't always know, do you?
No, you don't. There was a time when the money situation stressed me out so much that my husband was just like, forget about bank accounts. I'm going to take control of this. I can deal with it. You just forget about it for a while because it's not doing you well. Like now we kind of both talk about it and deal with it, and it's a partnership with the money. But for a while, for a good couple of years at least, he had to take control of it and like be the one to pay the bills and set up the direct debits and all that because it was stressing me out so much. It was just not doing me well. So he had to deal with it for a while.
Yeah, and that's probably where you did a lot of your energy stuff so that you were then able to handle the kind of earthly side of money better, right?
Yeah, I think that was actually before I got into doing all the mindset work because once I started doing the mindset work, that gave me the confidence and the kind of the stability to be able to take on the money again and like look at it and be like, okay, let's, deal with the stuff. Because before it was
Yeah.
just too distressing.
Yeah, I think that energy work does play a part there with the trust, right? Because even
Yeah.
if you don't know, like, so you see, like, your bank account doesn't have as much as you would like, you don't really know what to do,
Yeah.
but maybe you can trust that the right opportunity will come your way or that the universe will provide an idea. Like, you don't always have to trust that, like, the universe will send you a check in the mail.
Exactly. And it's also about trusting in yourself and your ability to create money, to create opportunities for money to flow into your life, retain money, to save it, to pay your bills, like to be a responsible money handler.
Yeah, that's something that I worked on for ages,
Yeah.
is to be responsible with money. Because when I was younger, I was extremely irresponsible with money.
Ah.
Extremely. That's a story for another time.
I had a very different journey. So I was extremely responsible with money up until I started my first business with my ex-business partner, who was not at all responsible with money. So we had this wildly successful business. We were bringing in multiple seven figures, but our expenses were just insane. We weren't paying ourselves. We weren't taking a salary out of the business. We were just grabbing bits of money when we could. And it was just chaos. It was like massive amounts of money flowing in, but flowing out as fast as it came in. It was totally disorganized, and that messed me up. That was 10 years of just bad money management. And I feel like I've spent the next 10 years, or the last 10 years of my life, kind of recovering from that and healing that from that and regaining that sense of responsible money handling that I had in the first bit of my life.
That brings up like not only the responsibility but also the question of lifestyle, right? That we wanted
Yes.
to touch on as well, like the relationship between that. It just illustrates that it's really, really not just about the money. Because what's the
No.
point of bringing in seven figures, over seven figures, if you're not enjoying it, if you don't have time, if you're not actually like keeping any of it? It's not actually funding the lifestyle that you want to live, right?
Exactly. My lifestyle was shit. Because it was a hospitality based business, when we traveled, we always stayed at nice hotels. But we stayed at nice hotels because it was research for our own hotels. So it was all still related back to the business. And there was never, or very rarely, that sense of relaxation and holiday and rest and recovery and recharge. It was just all work, 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 work. And so it was an awful lifestyle. So I always, when I'm working with people, say, how much money do you want to be making? But what kind of lifestyle do you want to have? And I mention this in my books as well. Do you want to be working 18-hour days and making multiple seven figures like I did? Or do you want to have more freedom? Do you want to have more flexibility? Like, what's more important for you? How do you want to be bringing this money in?
Yeah. And then, I mean, and then being willing to do the things, to explore the options of making that amount of money in a different way, maybe, or,
Yeah.
making those decisions that they support the lifestyle that you want. That was a recent message that I got actually through one of the mandalas that I did. I do a lot of mandala work for myself and in the soul space. And one of the mandalas that I did, it was very clear that the message was, it was about my business, but it was very clear that my family was in the center, should be for me to get the success that I want, my family needed to be in the center of all my business decisions. So basically, if a business decision wasn't supporting my family,
Yeah.
and the way that I would like our lifestyle to be, which is really me being home with my son all the time. I
Yeah.
mean, that's basically what it is. Then it's not the right decision, which means that me doing kind of one-to-one calls 5 days a week is not the right decision, because if my son is sick, that's a problem.
Exactly. And I think a lot of women that have families and children have at some point come to that realization, especially when they've had an unwell child that has completely thrown their schedule off course. And they've been like, right, I need more freedom and flexibility in my life. I can't just be filling up my calendar with client sessions.
Yeah, and I think that's a decision then, because then you need to find other ways of bringing in that income, right?
Exactly.
And then
Exactly.
focus, but with lifestyle being the central theme rather than just bringing in more money, like no matter what.
Exactly. And that leads me to something we were talking about before is a lot of times we get attached to where the money is coming from. Does it really matter? And I think does in some ways and doesn't in other ways. But okay, so let's talk about this. So does it really matter where the money's coming from?
I find this really hard because all of us who have businesses want the money to come from the business. And
yeah.
I think it's because we've attached so many things, so many beliefs to that. So like if the business is successful, then what does that mean about you? And if the business is unsuccessful, what does that mean about you? But in fact, if we lead with lifestyle, then it shouldn't matter.
Exactly. Exactly. Because this is all about having the lifestyle that we want. Because otherwise, what do we want the money for? Do we want to like pile up rooms full of gold coins? No, we don't.
I'd quite like that, Holly.
Okay, all right.
I think that'd be quite fun to pile up rooms of gold coins.
It would be fun, but most of us want the money to do something with it, which is to have whatever lifestyle we want, whether it's to go on holidays, to travel, to have the amazing stuff with our family. We want to use the money to spend it on experiences, and these experiences are what make up our lifestyle. So
yeah. And I think that it's hard to disassociate the money from the business, and maybe part of it is consistency.
Yeah.
Right? Because if money kind of comes in from various other sources, from betting on Brexit and from tax returns and whatever else, like that's not consistent. That's not something you can count on.
Yeah.
That's windfall in the end. I mean, so maybe that's part of it, is that consistency.
I think it is. Like you said, we wrap up a lot of our self-worth into the money coming from our businesses.
I think that's a conversation that we should have as well, Holly, because I think there's a lot of deeper stuff in there too.
Yeah, there is.
What we make things mean.
Exactly. Well, and another good example is, and you have had this conversation with you so many times, as I have mentioned on my own podcast, I think before, or in my Facebook group, I am owed money from my first business partner. And occasionally I get payments, occasionally the money comes in, but it's, again, not on a regular basis as it's supposed to be. And so I have a lot of attachment to getting that money that I am owed, when really what I want is the money. I mean, yes, I want that feeling of justice of receiving the money that I'm owed, but like I really just want the money so I can have the freedom and lifestyle that I want.
Yeah, but because your life has turned out in a certain way, like you have decided subconsciously or whatever, that money can, the easiest way or the only way is for that money to come from that particular source.
Right.
And I think that's where we get ourselves into a bit of trouble and kind of lose belief in the magic of the universe.
Yes.
The money can actually come from so many different sources.
Exactly. But a lot of us are close to that because we don't want the money to come from certain places, or because we just aren't even aware of all the different avenues that money could come to us. It's like you talked about the Brexit thing. Like if you had said, betting is bad, I'm not going to bet. Brexit is bad, I'm sure as hell not going to bet on Brexit. You would have closed yourself down to that money avenue. And I think it's interesting with that story because my husband does something similar. He bets a little bit of money every once in a while on sports stuff. And he'll always bet on the team that he wants to lose. So he never bets on his team that he wants to win because it's like his kind of consolation prize. If his team loses, then at least he makes some money.
How funny.
And obviously he does it strategically based on teams that are likely to win. But that's kind of the way he plays that game.
Yeah, I think you just have to find your own way with that, right? And if it feels good. Like I would never bet myself, because I just wouldn't. Like I would probably just bet too much and I'd probably lose. Like I'm just not cut out for it. Whereas my husband makes decisions from a totally different place.
Yeah.
He's not really attached to the outcome so much as I would be.
Yeah.
So it just works better. So
it's more like a game to them, I think.
Yeah. And so at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, right? Where the money.
Well, I was going to agree with you, but then I thought, yes, but I don't want to get involved in like drug trafficking or like doing
Oh
horrible
yeah,
things
no,
for
sure.
money. So like
No, yeah,
barring
okay.
barring things that are like totally unethical for us, it doesn't matter.
This is the thing though, like this is what we said at the beginning, and this is what I repeat all the time to everybody, is the highest priority is that you feel good.
Yeah.
Right? So obviously, I mean, those things that you mentioned, they don't fall into that category. They wouldn't make you feel good.
Right.
But if you lead with your lifestyle and like focus on living the life you want to live every single day, even,
Yeah.
in a small part, if you're in a situation where you can't spend as much time as you would like on the things that you love, then spend a little bit of time. That's still
Yeah.
better than nothing. And kind of bringing in a piece of what you want into your daily existence, I think for me, it has always been the answer.
Yeah. Even if that is 5 or 10 minutes of visualizing that lifestyle that you want,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, you have to
super
start
powerful.
somewhere. Really, I know I spent, it doesn't have to be long either. For my car, I think we decided to buy it, I think in May, and we had to make the payment by September. It was something like that.
Okay. And so
So,
how much time did you spend each day doing the work?
oh, that was just one paragraph. That was literally like, I don't know, a minute,
Okay.
2 minutes. I have a lot of different intentions for lots of different things. So in total, I would spend maybe 5 or 10, but it would be like one paragraph on that particular thing where I'd actually say the words out loud, like we pay for our car in cash and it feels so great, whatever it was.
And then you visualize the
Yeah. And
briefcase of
I
cash.
can still see myself giving him the suitcase of cash, like, which is obviously not how we did it in real life,
Yes.
right? Like, I mean,
Right. So the reality doesn't have to match up with the visualization, but
no,
that's
because it's the
just your
feeling.
mind's way. Yeah. And it's just your mind's way of triggering that feeling of
Yeah.
the experience.
Yeah, and because for me it just felt so joyful and so magical and so like delightful to be able to hand him a suitcase, open up a suitcase, and it's filled with bills. And obviously, yeah, it's not how it happened. But yeah, and I mean the other piece that's just coming up now to reiterate is that I had to make peace with getting a loan, right? So I
Yeah.
had to be okay with the alternative, so it wasn't like this desperate thing of like, if this doesn't work, then I suck and like I should die,
And there are
like,
no other options.
and there are no other options, and that means we don't have the car, or we'll be poor forever. Like none of that kind of story stuff that we
Yeah.
tend to do, right? I had
Yeah.
to be like, okay, well, if we have to get a loan, we'll get a loan, and then we'll pay it off. Like it's actually not a big deal. So that piece.
Yeah. So for people who are listening to this and they're thinking, oh, this is all fantastic, but what the hell do I do with this? What are some practical action steps that people can take today and moving forward to start shifting their money crap?
Book a session with Holly.
Yeah.
That's where I started.
All right. So,
Journaling.
yeah.
And it sounds really like simple, oversimplified maybe, but you need to know kind of where you are now and where you want to go.
Yes.
I mean, that's really the
Yes.
basis of everything. And then you can brainstorm about how you think you can get to where you want to go. Now,
Yeah.
whether you want to have a session with Holly to transform the stuff, or you have other ways of transforming the stuff, like that doesn't, at the end of the day, doesn't really matter.
Yeah, how you do it. And do you have your own tools that you could be doing? Because in the same way that people come and have sessions with me and I have sessions with other people, I do a ton of work with myself as well. So what can you do with yourself? You can do journaling, you can do visualization, you can do guided meditations
You
to
can
help.
do EFT.
Yeah.
You can do affirmations.
Yeah.
Like whatever you think works for you, right? And if
Yeah.
you don't think it's going deep enough, or you feel like it's not creating the transformation, then hire someone to help.
Yeah. And try different things.
Yeah.
So a lot of people really resist gratitude work. Okay, do something else.
Yeah, I can't stand gratitude work. I'm just like, I'm one of those people. And now everybody knows.
And I think that's important because it's quite possible that there's some people out there listening to this who think, oh my, Joanna doesn't
I
like
know.
gratitude work. And they're shocked by that. But it's because you have other tools that work better for you that you enjoy doing. If you hate using the tool, it's not going to work for you.
Exactly. Because again, the highest priority is that you feel good.
Yeah.
Right? So if a tool isn't making you feel good, if all you can think about is this isn't working, or this is boring, or whatever, or I want to be doing something else with my time,
Yeah.
then it's the wrong thing. So
Exactly.
you need to feel good. So I don't think we can actually give you listeners a formula for how to
No.
shift your money stuff right now. It kind of depends where you are and where you want to go.
But I think it starts with that. Like, it starts with you, the listener, and us getting clear on where you are and where you want to be. clarity, like getting that clear vision of where you want to be.
Yeah.
What is your ideal lifestyle? And what kind of money does it take to create that lifestyle?
And you need to be really honest with yourself about
Yeah.
that, because it's very easy to just buy into all the online stuff and be
Yeah.
like, I want to have a fully booked business with, this many clients a month and whatever not.
Yeah.
And that might not be what you actually want. Like
Yeah.
it took me years to kind of realize this, because many years ago I was called to create a membership community, and everybody was like, but you can't because you don't have an audience yet and all this stuff. And I'm like, but it just feels like the right fun thing to do. So I did it, and I ran it for like 4 people for like 2 years.
Yeah.
It was just kind of there. And it's only now that I realized that I had to let go of all the other stuff and focus on building that community, because that's the kind of lifestyle I want. What I want is to go in there, like this is what I do, kind of the way I want my life to be, is take like an hour, maybe an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours every single day. Go in there, pull cards for people and answer questions and channel messages and hold group calls and all that kind of thing. And then the rest of the time I can be writing and creating and not on one-to-one calls. And this is a huge thing for me. And it really required me to be super honest with myself. I found this process really, really difficult to let go of that business model that everybody is using.
Yep. And conversely, I love one-to-one calls, but I also don't want to fill up my calendar with one-to-one calls. I want to be focusing on my writing. So I want to have limited time for one-to-one calls and really enjoy the people that I work with like that. So I think it's about not following someone else's formula, but it can be useful to look at other people's formulas, look at how other people run their businesses, look at their offerings, and feel into, is that right for me? Do I want to be running membership programs? Do I want to be running mastermind programs? Do I want to be running one-to-one sessions? Do I want to be running online programs? Do I want to be creating passive income products? Look at all the different things that people are doing, but don't buy into anyone's formula. Feel into what is right for you. And sometimes it takes trying on other people's hats and being like, oh God, that did not work for me. That is not what I want in my life.
Yeah. And just to link it back to money.
Yeah.
To kind of went off on a tangent there. It's really starting with that lifestyle.
Yeah.
Being clear on what you want your days to look like.
Yeah.
And not leading with just making more money.
Exactly. And what does success look like for you?
Yeah.
Because as you said, there's this everyone's selling their blueprint on how to be successful and how to make money, but you've got to figure out what you want and what does success look like and feel like for you.
Yeah. And that'll lead to the money coming in, right? Because it has to then.
Yeah.
If everything's aligned. My goodness, I think we're done. I think my brain is now fried.
Okay.
Trying to think too much.
And analyze what's going on here. So to wrap things up, I think we've given people a lot to think about, a lot to do, a lot of things to try, a lot of things to focus on, a lot of things to get clarity on.
If anybody has any questions, then please feel free to email.
Yeah.
I'm at joannahennon.com, or just PM me on Facebook, honestly.
Exactly.
I don't mind, and I love having these conversations. So if anything here kind of stands out, and I think Holly is the same way.
Yeah, exactly. Holly at hollywharton.com. I'm also on Facebook. I've got an open free Facebook group, as do you. We'll link to those in the show notes.
Yeah. Ask the questions and get the stuff going, right? And go just challenge yourself to go a little bit deeper with the money thing than how do I manifest more?
Exactly. I think if I would like people to take one thing away from this episode, it is looking at the deeper side of money transformation work and how it's just a symptom of transforming other stuff that's underneath the water, underneath the iceberg, getting to do the deeper stuff, and that's going to transform the symptom, which is the money.
Yeah, I agree. There's one thing to remember, especially if you find that all the manifest more money programs, books, formulas, etc. aren't actually working for you and you're not yet rich.
Yeah. And that's what you want, is to be rich.
That's what you want. Then I just encourage you to look deeper and look beyond that surface level of manifesting, really, of the way that most people talk about the law of attraction.
Exactly. Yay. Well, thank you very much for listening.
Yes, and we'll see you soon.
Yep. Have a good day. So I hope you enjoyed that episode. Please drop me a line and let me know what you thought about it. You can email me at holly@hollywharton.com or find me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram and get in touch. I would also love for you to join me in my private Facebook group, which we mentioned on the show. you can go to hollywharton.com and you will be redirected to the Facebook group. I would love to have you in there to chat about business mindset and all that good stuff. Finally, whether you've been listening to the episode for a while or you've just heard your first episode, if you're drawn to learning more about mindset work and you would like to learn about how you can work with me, head over to hollywharton.com/call, that's CALL, and you can book in a call with me to learn more. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a quick review on iTunes. It would mean the world to me. Remember to visit hollywharton.com/248 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you so much for listening and have a great day. Thank you so much for listening to the Business Mindset Podcast. You can find more information about today's episode, including links for the topics that were discussed, at hollywharton.com. If you'd like to connect with other listeners and learn more about business mindset, join my private community for entrepreneurs at hollywharton.com/group. That will redirect you to the Facebook group. And if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to head over to iTunes and leave a quick review of this podcast. It just takes a minute. Thank you so much.